Well, hello. Happy Wednesday. Happy Work It Wellness Wednesday. I am Coach Yolanda. Apparently, there is something going on with Facebook, and I don't think that we are. Oh, we are. Okay, I fixed it because I'm a genius. Hi, happy Wednesday. I am so excited for this Work It Wellness Wednesday. It has been, what, 2 weeks since we had one, and I am grateful for our past guest. I am grateful for our current guest. I'm grateful for those of you who are watching us live or on the replay. We are grateful that you are taking some time out of your day to spend with us. This is water. I have not had water all day today, so I have to take a sip right now. I trust that you are doing the same as well. Some of y'all might be having wine because I know some people will do Wine Wednesday. This is water for me. And that is an indication of how my day has gone. I haven't really been taking care of myself today. I have not eaten. I have not been drinking my water. And so it is important that we do these things, which is why it's important that we are having this conversation surrounding how we care for ourselves in workplaces and other environments where we are going to be spending our time and sharing our gifts, our talents, our wisdom, our intelligence, all of the things that make us who we are. Wherever you are sharing that part of you, if it is not serving you or it is stressing you out, then you need to ask yourself the question, if this is not working well for me, why am I here? Why am I in it? What is the purpose? What is the function? And so when my guest and I get together and start talking about that, we're going to talk about what our whys are. I know for me, the past couple of weeks, the past maybe month or two, I have noticed a shift in my wellness or lack thereof. I have been out of balance in particular areas of my life, and I am working to create that balance. And sometimes when you are working to create balance, it creates more chaos because what used to work is no longer working. You may not be certain about what is going to work. And so you're in this in between place of trying to figure it out. And it can be uncomfortable, unsettling, uncertain, and all of the things that could make you want to run back to the thing that you are comfortable with doing, even if the thing that you are familiar with doing is causing you stress. That is why people stay in environments, experiences, relationships way past their expiration date because it's familiar. And we're telling ourselves the devil that I do know is worse than the devil that I don't. Well, the devil is no good nowhere. So why would you even want to put that in your consciousness that I'm okay being in a toxic environment because at least I know what toxicity I'm exposing myself to. That would be like walking into a house filled with asbestos and saying, well, at least I know it's asbestos, and you're consistently breathing it in. I was just talking about my beautiful mother who had so many jobs at so many times in her life because she was a workhorse. When she decided to retire from one of those jobs after working there, leaving, going back, when she got to the age of retirement, 2 weeks after she retired, her kidneys failed because she had stayed in toxic environments way past their expiration date. And the time that was hers was not even time that she could spend because now she had to go on dialysis 3 days a week. Can you imagine working until age 65 thinking the rest of my years are going to be glorious? I'm going to get to spend time with my family, travel, and your whole body says, no, you're not going to do that because you stayed in this toxic environment for so long that was causing you so much stress, high blood pressure, hypertension, and all of these other things that you were dealing with instead of breaking free. And now you don't even have the time that you thought you were going to have. And her life only extended 10 years past retirement. So, can you imagine working somewhere 25 years to only get 10 years for yourself? Ain't no way. So, I have been creating things in my life to introduce ease, introduce new relationships, introduce or improve past relationships. I really want my life to look a particular way. And I was the toxic work environment because I have my own business. but I recognize how I created a toxic environment with my own two hands and my mind centered on being in places that I thought that I needed to be that would equal success, when the real success for me is being with my family, being with my friends, and enjoying life. And if I've got to have a high stress environment in order to do that, I'd rather not be successful. I'd rather not have some of the things that I think that I need so that I can have my peace and I can have my freedom, because those things are invaluable. The material things that come with a certain type of lifestyle and worth ethic, they're great. And for those of you who do that and are searching for that, kudos to you. Yolanda loves leisure. I love to rest. I love being able to sit outside all day doing absolutely nothing. And so, if I can create more of that in my life, and that means that my business doesn't look the way that I thought it was going to look, I'm choosing me. I'm not choosing the business. And so tonight we are going to talk about those kind of things. What kind of choices and decisions you may have to make in your life so that you are working your wellness, meaning where you spend the bulk of your time, where you spend the bulk of your energy. It takes a lot of energy to get up, get in a car, or get on public transportation to go into a place that is making you sick. And you got to do it again Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. How many of us on Sunday night are already dreading the, can you imagine praying to have a long life, but then dreading the life that you are leading? Those two do not work well together. And so we will talk about this. So, my guest, I love her, I love her, I love her. Marissa Price is not only a social worker, she is a wellness advocate. She is the creator and owner of Free Black Woman Virtual Solutions. And as I just said to her, as I was driving home, and I'm thinking, we're going to have a conversation about something that was traumatic for Marissa. The fact that you are willing to revisit a traumatic situation so that other people don't have to unnecessarily have that experience, your heart is gold. And I am so grateful for whatever mental, emotional energy you have to expend to have this conversation, because it's not easy to talk about your past pain, particularly with people that you don't know and you don't know how they're going to use or receive the information. So, the courage that you are demonstrating, Marissa, I am so grateful for you. This is Marissa Price, everybody. Hey,
Hey.
love. Hey, beautiful girl. How are
Hey.
you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. This is the part where we have to act like we don't know each other. Like,
Yeah, like
hi,
we were just talking.
how are
Yeah.
you? So, Marissa, you are a wellness advocate, but I know you did not come by that without experiencing some
hmm
challenges. So, tell us, tell all of us why
hmm
being a wellness advocate is so important to you.
Yeah, so I am a survivor of a toxic job that I just left actually in March of this year. So relatively recently. But this job brought up a lot of things for me. It brought up childhood trauma,
Mm,
brought up things that I thought I had healed from, and they just came surging back to the surface. I dealt with a lot of gaslighting, being underpaid, taking on an additional role. So the lack of boundaries that had been imposed on me, by the oppressive society we live in, really showed themselves in this role because I was taking on things that I wasn't comfortable taking on, but I felt like I had to um, because I felt like I didn't deserve to be there, and that's like a
mm,
core wound that I'm still trying to heal from. But yeah, this job experience, it took me to the depths of depression, or what was diagnosed as depression. Um, and so, yeah, healing is a big focus for me. And I want to share what I have learned, share what I went through with other people, because unfortunately, toxic jobs are so common, especially for Black women. And yeah, just sharing what I went through in the hopes that it helps other people.
mm. And so, when you talk about being in that toxic environment, and compromising yourself,
Hmm.
was the conversation in your head, but I got to prove something. I got to prove
Oh
something.
yeah.
I got to
Oh
prove
yeah.
something. So when we talk about not enoughness, it doesn't
Hmm.
always look like I'm not going to put myself out there. I'm not, sometimes it's I'm putting
Yeah.
myself out
Oh, absolutely.
there. I'm
Yeah.
showing up in the places that I know I shouldn't be because I've got to prove something.
Yep, I
Mm.
definitely experienced that. Yeah. As a first generation college student in my family, I felt a lot of pressure, not necessarily from my family, thankfully, but it's kind of an internal pressure because you're the first one to have a lot of these experiences. So you feel a certain type of like, okay, I have to make this work.
Mhm.
Um, this is the first time anyone has made this amount of money in a role like this in my family. So I have to stick to it. So it didn't feel like there was a way for me to exit. And also on paper, it was everything that I worked so hard for. That I left a career as a financial analyst, went to graduate school in social work, and I was in economic development. So it felt like the perfect job for me. And I was clinging so tightly to it. And add the pandemic to that, seeing so many people lose their jobs, and me feeling extremely lucky and privileged to have a job and a job that let me work from home. I was clinging on to it so tightly that I was overlooking how traumatizing it was for me every day to continue working. Hmm.
And we just talked about that. Even when something looks on paper, or
Yeah.
even when you go for the interview and you're like, this company sounds great, this experience sounds wonderful, this is exactly what all of those sleepless nights in grad school were all about. I have arrived. I can take my previous knowledge with my new like this is
Hmm.
exactly what I have
Yes.
desired, only to discover, you know, the whiz does not really live in Oz. You know what I mean? Like you get
Yep.
behind the curtain into some of these employment places and you're like, I have been hoodwinked. These
Hmm.
people don't have the resources to do the thing that they say they want to do. And not even if they did have the resources, they're not using them
Hmm.
appropriate.
Right.
And then you become a part of that system.
Hmm. Yep.
I don't think it's a sense of loyalty. It's a sense of if I'm not here, doing
Hmm.
good work and protecting people, then
Oh yeah.
who's going to do it?
Hmm. Yeah. That pressure is real. That pressure is very real. And yeah, especially being a young Black woman in a role in a majority, pretty much all white environment, me leading such a major strategy, I felt a lot of pressure to stay there because there weren't a lot of people bringing up the issues that I was bringing up. And so that added to me feeling like I couldn't exit. I was feeling stuck because it was
Mm,
like, who's going to bring this to the table if I'm not here? And so you kind of get into that role of, well, I guess I just have to stick it out and deal with being mistreated, deal with, the microaggressions um, every day. And that's not true. You don't have
mm-mm,
to stick around for that. You deserve better.
no, but we're programmed to believe, and not just in workplace
Hmm.
environments and workplace relationships, but in our everyday relationships. If I leave, then things are going to fall apart, or
Hmm. Yeah.
they won't figure things out.
Yes.
And so we feel this pressure, but we don't recognize that we're literally killing ourselves.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
can you talk about what were the signs that I got to get the heck up out of here to save myself? What were some of the things you talked about the depression, but
Hmm.
sometimes there are many of us who are walking around in a depressed state, still
Hmm.
operating in these toxic environments, praying, hoping, dreaming, wishing that they're going to get, it's going to get better.
Right.
Someone's going to see that this workplace is horrible and do something about it. Uh,
Hmm. Yeah.
so, what were some of the obvious signs for you that wait a minute, I'm losing myself?
Hmm. The tears. So I would cry like all the time.
Mm,
Just not able to. The thing is, I still had my work done, so no one could tell that I was like struggling. And that's been the case for me all throughout my life. No matter what I'm going through, I'm still like a straight A student. Still like on the outside, you couldn't tell anything was wrong with me. Um, which is the case for a lot of Black women, right? We have
Mhm.
to put on a mask and keep going. We feel like we
Oh, we
do.
look good while we're depressed. We're
Yeah.
depressed, but we're going to look good doing it, and the work is going to get done, and no
Yes,
one's
yes,
going to know
yes.
that we're in the shower having a whole breakdown
Oh, the shower.
moment,
Yes.
or in the
Yes.
car. No one's going
Mm-hmm.
to know that I'm sitting in the car for 15 minutes because yeah, yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
black
Yep.
women everywhere. We know how to
Ooh.
do it.
Yes. Yeah. It was the tears. It was the lack of appetite. It came to a point where I couldn't eat some days. I was so distressed. I couldn't like intake water.
Mm,
Um, and had never experienced that before. And so I started therapy, thankfully during this process, and me telling her that, and her looking at me like, "Oh my gosh, this is at a very severe level." And I came to her hoping to get strategies to continue in my job because I thought it was me. I thought I was doing something wrong.
I was just about to ask you. So you
Yeah,
thought you were the issue, and
yeah.
how often do we think, well, it's got to be me? You
Oh
know,
yeah, so often.
your work is
hmm
getting done. So it's not
Yep,
even your performance was affected. Everything
not
was
at all.
you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, Alicia says she is so excited to be here for this
Yay.
conversation. And when we talked about Black women looking good, even while we're depressed, it is absolutely true.
Yes, it
And sometimes
is.
that
It
leads
is.
into other behaviors like overspending. Depression
hmm
can look like, let me buy some stuff to
Yeah.
make me feel better because I don't know how to change this environment. Or let me get into a relationship that's going to, temporarily make me feel better because this environment is toxic. Sometimes we run externally to other
hmm
things thinking that's going to be the remedy when the whole time it's the damn job. It's the
Right.
damn job. Were you
It's that
experiencing
simple.
any of that as well?
Oh
Let me
yeah.
go all of these other places.
Yeah, so not with the spending, thankfully, because I know that that is a serious issue that a lot of people have. But no, I was trying to do that by like, going, so working remotely, I would go out during the day all the time.
Mm,
I would say it was more of like an avoidance tactic on my end.
mm.
So I would avoid my laptop completely, only do the tasks that I had to do during the day. I would avoid it. So it would be like my laptop sitting over there in the corner, kind of staring at me all day, which created even more anxiety.
Mhm.
Um, just trying like another way to cope, right, with this stress, trying to get some type of relief, leaving
Mhm.
during the day. So it came to the point where I didn't even want to be at home some days.
Mm.
Like I would just be out of the park all day. I would be trying to distract myself from
Be- because
the
that
real issue.
laptop is just getting bigger and bigger and
Yeah.
bigger and bigger,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, maybe
Yeah.
if I just avoid it, it'll get better.
Yes.
And it
Yes.
didn't. And it
No,
didn't.
it didn't.
Ooh, and sometimes we'll even pile on more work. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, well, this work isn't satisfying, so let me go volunteer somewhere for 50 hours a week, and maybe that'll make
Oh
like,
yeah. That reminds me. Yeah, yeah. So I did. I volunteered for more things at my job before I got to like the avoidance part. I did like the over volunteering for different, clubs, organizations, stuff like that within the organization, taking on things that I wasn't being paid for, um, to try to make it work. Because again, I felt it was me. So I'm like, okay, if I do more things, if I
yeah,
contribute in more
maybe they'll like
ways,
me and it'll get better.
yes, yes, yeah. And it didn't. It didn't. It got worse because the people who were so insecure and viewing me as a threat, it got even more heightened the more visibility that I had within the organization. hmm
Woo, I just had that experience, but because I am still in it, I will not speak on it live. But you and
yeah.
I, we talk about transparency often, and you just shared with me that you had to save yourself from another toxic environment, even when and let me be clear, Marissa did not just extract herself from a toxic work environment, she has extracted herself from the toxic United States of America. You are now living in South America,
Mexico. Yeah.
which
Have a
Brave
minute,
girl.
talk about.
Yes, brave, brave,
Mm-hmm.
brave soul you
Yes.
are. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
not South America. You're in Mexico, right?
Yeah.
Mexico.
Yeah.
Um,
But that is on my list of
Lisa's like,
committing.
yes. So it wasn't enough to just leave the job. You were like, I'm leaving the job and where the job was located. I'm leaving the state. I'm leaving the
Hmm.
country. I'm out of here. I'm out of here, which
Yes.
again is such a brave and courageous act to save yourself. And I think it was my guest Simone where we talked about what are you
Mm-hmm.
willing to do to save yourself? Like, what choices are you willing to make to
Mm-hmm.
for your wellness? Because
Yeah.
the environments that you find yourself in are not going to change just because you're nicer, just because you're working longer, just because
So true.
it's not. If it were
Hmm.
going to change, it would change organically. Someone
Yeah.
somewhere would say, "My workforce is stressed
Hmm. Yeah.
and I have to do something about it." And I just shared with you here in the Philadelphia region, one of the major health systems is facing a major layoff. That is their solution to them not having the money that they want. Let's get rid of the people who need the job the most, the
Right.
administrative staff and people that they feel are, that they can just let go.
Right.
When these
Right.
people just went through a pandemic with you, you are a health system that just went
Mm.
through a pandemic and your
Mm-hmm.
response to your first responder essential workers is we're going to let you go.
Mm-hmm.
Guarantee you those people are like, I gave you everything over these past 3 years through this pandemic to make sure that this health system didn't falter, and
Mm-hmm.
your my reward is here's an go on the unemployment line.
Right.
And
Exactly. Yeah.
so we have to ask ourselves, what are you willing to do to save yourself? Yes, ma'am.
Mm.
What are you willing to do? Because
Yeah.
no one's coming to save you.
Mm.
Would if they could, if they were going to save you, they would have saved you. They would have not wanted one tear to fall from your face.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm.
so tell us about that journey, that decision that you came to not just leave the workplace, but to leave the country.
So yeah, it's I came across Exodus Summit, which
That
yeah, Alicia,
many
Alicia
it's part
started
of.
the Exodus Summit. Yeah, led by Rashida Dow and Stephanie Perry, and then I actually joined Rashida's group coaching program from Burnout to Bliss.
Mm,
It was just inspired by all the ladies like saying their travel destinations. I'm like, I had never really considered international travel possible for me, but seeing other Black women do it, I'm like, okay, this is actually possible. And so I studied really hard, seeing how they did it, and then was able to do that and basically create like an online source of income for myself through
mm.
becoming a freelancer through Digital Nomad Kit, a virtual assistant. So yeah, I'm now in the business of helping other Black women start online businesses to get out of toxic work environments that don't deserve them, and really leaning into their natural gifts to create online sources of income.
Oh, we need you. Thank you in the spirit of Mother Harriet. Thank you for
Oh, thank
that,
you.
because
Hmm.
that is essentially what it is.
Hmm.
You again looking at the parts of yourself where there was pain and saying, I don't want anyone else to experience this. How can I create an experience
Yeah.
for other Black women to not have to wake up every morning crying to go to work? And
Yeah.
again, not just the toxic work environment, but the toxic society that we find ourselves in the United States of America. And for some people, it is an existence and an experience that you cannot spend another week, another month, another year hearing the
Right.
same rhetoric, being in the same environments. And so
Hmm.
the courage it takes to say, that's what I'm willing to do for me because I'm priceless.
Mm.
Priceless. And earlier this year I told myself I was no longer going to continue to the practices of oppressors. And
Hmm.
I didn't even
Yes.
recognize how I was doing that to myself. Like, you got to be up at 2 in the morning doing this, and you got to be doing this. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. That
Hmm.
sounds like it would come out of the mouth of someone who wanted me to work, 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 work myself to death for them, for their
Yes.
benefit. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
do that to yourself? Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Absolutely
Mm-hmm.
not. I'm not
Yep.
going to do it. And so we were having a conversation about the term professional, which is code word
Mm-hmm.
for I'm going to control how you look. I'm going to
Yeah.
control what you say. I'm going to use that to hang over you to get you to
Mm-hmm.
do what I want you to do.
Yep. Keep
And
you
we got
chasing something you
to
can never
keep
attain.
chasing and to
Mm-hmm.
chase what? Like I said, that gold watch that they might give you if you put in
Mm-hmm.
25 years of service ain't gonna serve you well if you ain't got the vision to see it because you're sick, or you can't even put it on your arm because now you're weak and infirm because you've been in a stressful environment for all of those years.
Yes. Yeah.
And so part of what you said to me one of the first times that we met is feeling seen, feeling loved, and feeling supported is what you
Mm-hmm.
needed. And it sounds as though you weren't waiting for somebody else to give that to you. You were going to create that for yourself.
Oh, wow. Thank
And now
you.
you are creating that for others. So you have a webinar on Tuesday. Tell us about the webinar.
Yeah, so this is my first webinar under Free Black Woman Virtual Solutions, which is the virtual assistant business consulting business I started.
Mhm.
But yeah, this will walk you through the basics of starting an online business. So things like identifying your target market, knowing the tools that exist, knowing like the payment processing platforms that exist, just the basic tools to reflect on what you want to do, what your natural talents are, and then how you can make that into an online source of income. So yes, it's called Start Your Online Business from Scratch. And it is next Tuesday at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. And yeah, under Free Black Woman Virtual Solutions.
Okay. And so are you requiring people to register for that? And can they do that at your website?
Not on my website. I should create a link on my website. But yeah, it's in my Instagram bio. So if you go to mprice MSW on
Ooh.
Instagram,
There you
you can
go.
yeah, click the link in bio and register. Yeah.
Okay, great. So I want everyone that's watching now or on the replay to hear this. If you know that you are in a toxic work environment and you are ready to move on to something else, but you may not know what that something else is, that is why you go to Marissa's Instagram, click on her bio, get the
Mhm.
link to sign up for that webinar because this is going to give you the tools where you can be self sufficient. All of that education that you have, that experience, your skills, all of that can be utilized
Mhm.
to create a life that doesn't look like I'm working for somebody else who doesn't respect me, who doesn't,
Mhm.
listen to me. I'm watching people with less intelligence get promotion. Like, I don't
Mhm.
know about y'all, but I cannot, will not, shall not ever stay in an environment where I know I can see and I have evidence of other people receiving things that they have not earned or worked for. It
Mhm.
is like a slap in the face. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
did it. I can't do it. I cannot tell
Mhm.
you that every place that I've ever worked that I've left gracefully, I have not. I'm never giving you 2 weeks notice. I'm out.
Mhm.
The minute my body feels
Yes.
like it
I love that.
cannot be in that space, I'm out. That whole professional courtesy, damn that. I'm going to save
Mhm.
myself and I'm going to
Mhm.
leave.
Right. Right.
If you don't have the resources or even the care to create an environment for your people to be well, why should people show up? We
Mhm.
can no longer say, "Oh, well, we'll pay. We're paying you." You're not even paying people what they're worth.
Mhm. That's true.
So, talk to
Ooh,
me
that's true.
how you can pull someone, and it's not that you're forcing, but let's say I come to you and I'm like, Marissa, I know I got to leave my job, but how am I
Mhm.
going to feed myself? How am I going to clothe myself? How am I going to do these things? What would the conversation start like?
So it start probably with like a skills assessment because I feel like as Black women, we're often told we have to keep seeking things externally. We have to keep seeking more degrees, more certifications to be considered like professional, to be
Mm,
considered at that level. So it leaves us on a constant chase for something. But we already have so many skills. Black women are the most educated group of people in the
Yeah.
US. We
Mm-hmm.
already have the skills. It's just acknowledging the skills that you already have and then seeing how you can move those to an online platform. So if you're a teacher, creating an online course, if you want to be a consultant, you can literally set up like a Calendly link and have people pay you for consulting time. There are so many different opportunities that exist. If you're an artist, there are ways to sell your art online so that you can have that location independence if you want it. And also, you don't have to work for people who treat you horribly. You have the
Mm-hmm.
power to take your gifts into your own hands, which is something you've kind of opened my eyes to, my gifts, because that was something I was shying away from for so long, is really acknowledging the gifts that I have. But once you do acknowledge them, you're able to lean into them, then you're able to recognize how those gifts can bring you income online.
And this is what I have discovered as of late. Within our community of Black women, we will support one another. We
Yes.
will love one another. So Stephanie Perry opened up her platform to me, and it
Yeah.
has continuously been one of the most blessed events. And I've
Mm-hmm.
only met Stephanie once in person.
Mm-hmm.
Talked to her maybe twice on online.
Yeah.
But what I do know, if you take that step forward, there
Mm-hmm.
are communities, particularly of Black women, that are going to surround you, support you, and
Mm-hmm.
love you through it because we've all experienced some similar trauma. And when we make
Mm-hmm.
the decision to say, no
Yeah.
more, we're not doing that, and I don't want anyone else to experience that either,
Mm-hmm.
we will support one another. I'm
Yes.
telling you, if you
Yes.
feel as though you are not in a community of safety where people are
Mm-hmm.
seeing you, loving you, and supporting you, then first of all, don't go into spaces to create havoc. But
Mm-hmm.
find those spaces where that is occurring naturally, where
Yes.
people are not, looking to make money off of you from the begin. Like, I'm talking about serious love. Like Alicia is saying, listen,
Mm-hmm.
Black women are
Mm-hmm.
everything. So
Yeah.
supportive. We
Mm-hmm.
have got to get out of that mentality that we don't support one another, because that is not true. You've said it, that Black women are the most educated group
Mm-hmm.
there is. Black women also probably spend more money in
Mm-hmm.
particular
Oh yeah.
places, and we know in particular industries Black women spend more money. So those
Mm-hmm.
gifts, those talents that you support, people in finding how they can, transform them onto an online platform. There is a community that is
Mm-hmm.
willing to support you. We have to get over that fear that, oh, no one's going to support me, or it only has to be done this way, or I only have to work with a particular group of people.
Yeah.
All of those, negative core beliefs that somehow have been in our psyche, in our consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
We got to get that out of our system.
Mm-hmm.
We really, really
Absolutely.
have to get that consciousness out of our system, because let me tell you something. Like I said, Stephanie didn't have to do what she did, and it continues to be one of the most supportive experiences that I've ever had in this business. And it's one of the reasons why I feel okay taking my leisure, because I'm
Right.
like,
Right.
if I'm gonna lay down, guess who's gonna support me? Black women.
Yes.
And like you said, if I need to go travel somewhere, guess who's gonna be there? Black women.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Absolutely.
and
Yep.
it's not, something that we have to be taught. It's who we are.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yes.
always been who we are.
Mm-hmm.
It has
Absolutely.
always been who we are, and I'm so grateful for it. I'm so grateful for it. So when you talk about working with people in their gifts and showing them, how do you, as the creator,
Mm-hmm.
work with your own fear about your own gifts in order to help other people?
Uh-oh.
I was right, because
Yeah.
said earlier, I know I'm grieving right now. I know that I'm transitioning some things in my own business, and the vision that I had for my business has changed. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not, what I thought it was in my spiritual ball shirt. It's not what I thought it was going to be,
Yeah.
but that's a choice. But that doesn't mean that I'm still not grieving. So,
Right.
how do you, Marissa,
Mm-hmm.
work with your own fears, your own not enoughness, or whatever it looks like to support other people?
That's a great question. For me, I think
Mm.
it's really been identifying the source of those fears and knowing that they don't come from me. Um,
Mm.
and that anything that I'm like a gift or like an idea that I have was put there for a reason. And
Mm.
so Alicia has been so pivotal in this for me is realizing that like if you have an idea come to you, that means you have everything you need to go forward with that idea. And there is no questioning that. Like why else would it be in your mind? Why else would it be in your spirit if you didn't have all the tools you needed to
Why else
go
would it
forward
keep
with
you
it?
up at night? Right. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Yeah.
Why would it taste so good? You're like, that's a good
Mm-hmm.
idea. Hmm.
Yep. And we know we feel that, that feeling when you're working on something that's really aligned with your higher purpose, like you don't want to put it down. And so
Right.
it's tapping into that feeling and leaning more into that and realizing there will be fear with that because it's new. Like you always say, like it's new. There is going to
It's
be fear with
not
anything that's
hard.
new.
It's
Right.
not hard. It's new, and anything
Yeah.
new you have to approach with that consciousness that I never did this before.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
Yep.
let me be
Mm.
excited. And I always say excitement and anxiety are really the same thing. It's all in the perspective you have. So let me be excited about the unknown because it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be good. I know this thing is going to be good because I can feel
Mm.
it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
it sounds like me and Alicia need to talk because that is
Yes,
some
you do.
delicious teaching and affirming right there. And that's what I'm saying. You
Mm-hmm.
have to be around people who are going to affirm that within you and see that within you. And
Yes.
so, because you and I have talked, and you've talked
Mm-hmm.
about, the one thing that's not that there's ever just one thing, but one of the things
Mm-hmm.
uh, is the fear around money, because certainly that's
Yeah.
part of the conversation for anyone who is thinking about leaving a job, whether you love the job or not. If
Mm-hmm.
that job ended today, you may have that realized fear of, how am I going to support myself?
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that, because I also share in that with you in terms of that scarcity mindset, that lack mindset that just creeps in
Yeah.
when you
It's
least
hard.
expect it and when it's very inconvenient.
Mm-hmm. It's hard, especially I'm like the first generation in both sides of my family to live outside of poverty.
Hmm.
So that pressure alone in seeing and hearing people's stories all throughout my life really instilled that deep fear within me that this could be me one day. And it's kept me in places that don't serve me. It's kept me in jobs where I'm being mistreated because I am so fearful of being without money. Like I actually went back to the toxic job that I was after taking leave. I went back
Mm.
to get a bonus so that I would feel financially comfortable to leave. Now, the harm that caused me within those 6 months, I wouldn't do that again because I went right back to the same place that I was in and it got even worse.
Mm.
So that fear of money is still something that I struggle with. I do struggle with because the society we live in creates lack. It creates scarcity, right? And these are real things. So it's an issue that I'm still working with. I'm still
Right. And
learning.
again, we think it's us.
Hmm.
Instead of looking at the conditions that we all live under. It's
Yeah,
like things are not wealth is not equally distributed in this in our
not at all.
society.
No.
You know that if you had the same qualifications as a white man and you went for the same, job, that he's automatically going to be paid more.
Hmm.
We
Yeah.
we know that those things are real and that they exist. And
Yeah.
so again, we internalize it's got to be me. I'm not making enough money. I'm not successful. Maybe I need to go educate myself even more. Maybe and put myself in more debt because
Yeah.
now the Supreme Court is like, y'all,
Oh,
the
oh, that's
payments
a
keep going. We don't care. We don't care. Joe
no.
was like, I'm trying to free y'all from that, but the Supreme Court is like,
Uh,
make them pay and make it harder for them to even get the education to begin
mm-hmm.
with. I don't
Yep.
even want to have the discussion.
Yep.
But we don't look at the conditions that
Right.
cause the core belief of lack. And as
Yes.
you said, to be first generation of anything comes with a
Mm-hmm.
huge responsibility and a
Mm-hmm.
you can't fail mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Like you
Yep.
can't fail. You can't say no.
Yeah.
And for those of us who grew up in that environment of you've got to be twice as good to make it, all of that rhetoric
Mm-hmm.
that really was the conversations from our oppressors. Like if
Mm-hmm.
again, I
Yeah.
just
Mm-hmm.
I shudder to think about some of the things that have come out of my mouth and how it mirrors
Yeah.
the oppressive systems that we all have lived under. And I thought it was okay. I
Mm-hmm.
thought that's what I was supposed to say. I thought that's what I was supposed to do. I thought I was supposed to work my fingers to the bone. And just
Right.
the other day, I'm doing something and I'm sweating. I'm like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
What
I've
are
been
you
there.
doing?
Mm-hmm.
We don't do this.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yep.
there's something internal that's like you have
Yeah.
to do this to prove something.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so when you say you still struggle with and work with, what is your return like now? Do you notice the difference in the time period between the reaction of fear to the realization and the awareness? Wait a minute, this is not me.
Yeah, yeah, it's shorter. I find
Mhm.
that, as I heal, as I explore where those wounds came from, kind of connect them to the conditions that exist in society, I'm able to shorten that time between feeling like I'm never going to have anything and I'm, catastrophizing basically,
Mm.
to coming back to reality into the present moment. So the time between those two shortens as you start to learn about the conditions that exist and start to realize that you have internalized a lot of those messages. And it's just a process of unlearning all of these things that you've been taught your entire life, which is not an easy task, right? Because you're unlearning decades of conditioning.
Generations worth
Yeah,
of
yeah.
programming and consciousness, but the glorious thing is that there is that awareness that something
Hmm.
is not right.
Yeah, yep.
Like I think about again my mother and I'm like something had to trigger a something is not right moment. Or
Hmm.
maybe it didn't because in her mind she was doing what she was supposed to do.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah.
If I work hard, if I do these things, if I show up, if I, go above and beyond, then there will be some great reward for me.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
how many of us have discovered that's not always true.
Hmm.
Or sometimes the great reward is an internal experience. It's not an external experience.
Right.
And so tell me what you have found now that you are in a new environment, you are living in a new country, and the
Mhm.
culture is different. Things are
Yes.
very different. Tell me what
Yeah.
you have found to be one of the great rewards of choosing you.
Mm. Oh, wow. That is a great question.
It sure is,
Um,
girl.
choosing me. I find I have a lot more peace when I let myself just settle into the present moment, breathe, because I have a tendency to hold my breath when I'm stressed, which I know a lot of us do. When I breathe, when I center myself, I find that I'm more at peace um, in doing things that are aligned with my spirit. Um, this is something you've taught me, like something that's not feeling right, that's not really gelling with your spirit. It's like you won't feel settled. It'll
Mhm.
feel like, that internal feeling that we get that something isn't right.
I'm not right.
Um,
It's a
yeah,
calling. It's a calling.
yeah.
You. It is your spiritual self saying, this is not who you are.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
This is not what you were created for. So I need
Mm.
you to balance that out.
Yeah. That's so true. And I know that I have ignored that many times.
Mm.
I've ignored that and kept pushing because that's what everyone told me to do. Because, like, as a child, I've always been a very sensitive person, like able to absorb people's energies. But I was told that something was wrong with me all the time, going throughout school, like being told I'm too sensitive. I need to like get it together. And then you start to ignore those spiritual signs that are so powerful, that are guiding you to where you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to be doing.
Let me tell you
Hmm.
something. Those tears are
Yeah.
an indication that your spirit is saying, I am weeping internally because you're not listening to yourself.
Mm. Oh. Hmm. Yeah.
It's like, can you imagine a version of you in a pool of water drowning and you just walked on past? Like, I don't
Mhm.
even see it. I
Yeah.
don't even see myself drowning or think that I'm worthy of saving.
Mm.
I listen,
Wow.
I tell my own children there is not a man, woman, or child on this earth that is worthy of me harming myself. I'm
Mm.
going to save me every single time. That's not what I was taught being brought up in a Southern Baptist household. It was sacrifice, 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 sacrifice. And like
Hmm.
Alicia said, hard work doesn't always pay off. Hard
True.
work will kill you
True.
quicker sometimes than some diseases will.
Yes. Mm.
And you think it's, well, I didn't get the right pill or I didn't get the right remedy. No, you are doing it to yourself because
Hmm.
you're in an environment that you can't even breathe in. Like when you said
Yeah.
sometimes we're holding your breath, I've
Hmm.
experienced that. Like, girl, you're not even breathing. Can you imagine
Yes.
not even wanting to give yourself air because
Hmm.
you are so stressed?
Yes.
If we don't start saving
Mm.
ourselves, I'm
Yeah.
telling you, I am telling you, nothing
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
this world is worth you killing yourself for. Nothing. And I don't know, well, I do know where we got that mentality from, but we need to leave it wherever it's at and
Hmm.
start saving ourselves from these oppressive systems, particularly if the oppression is your own mindset.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And
Woo,
that's often the hardest thing to do. Right,
yes.
is change your own mindset because it's so deeply ingrained in all
It's
of us from
automatic.
such a young age. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's like you're on automatic, autopilot where I have to do what I've been shown. I
Yes.
have to do what I've been raised to do.
Hmm.
And one of the reasons we are seeing so many people in society acting in particular ways is because we it's not working. It
Hmm.
is not
Yep.
working. The way that we used to operate is not working. Things are being dismantled. And
Hmm.
anytime something is being dismantled, there's going to be chaos and confusion. The
Right.
thing that wants to stay in power wants to stay in power. The thing that wants to remove the power structure is going to be like there's going to be this
Hmm.
battle. But
Yeah.
please don't let that battle be an internal one where you are fighting yourself
Hmm.
for something that you didn't even create.
Right. Yeah.
I'm
It's a
so
lot.
I'm
Hmm.
so glad. One of the first things you said to me when we met was, I want to create spaces for Black people to be well, to just
Hmm.
and you
Hmm.
had a vision, like you had colors and
Hmm.
textures. And I'm like, ooh, that feels like the type of place where I want to be. So I know on Tuesday you have the webinar. So talk to us about Free Black Woman Virtual Solutions. Talk to us
Hmm.
about how you gonna free the rest of us, Marissa.
Oh, yeah. So I think it's having participated in conversations and hearing Black women's stories in toxic jobs, going through that experience myself, and then seeing the reason that people stay a lot is fear of running out of money.
Mm,
It's something that I struggle with too. Um, so I'm hoping to support lending my skill set in banking, economic development, small businesses to um, Black women to build online businesses where you don't have to have startup capital. I think that's a huge
Say what?
thing.
Say that again,
You don't have to
Marissa.
have
You said
startup
what?
capital. You don't have to.
We don't. You
You
mean to
don't.
tell me I don't need to go find a bank that's
No,
willing to give me X amount of dollars for my dream? Are you
you don't.
serious?
You don't. Yeah. And that's like the thing about online businesses that I'm so excited about because you can take control into your hands and you can have control over your narrative and you don't have to water it down to like get something like a bank loan or something like that because the startup costs are so low. They're zero or very low to get started when basically all you need is a way to collect payments, communicate
Mhm.
with your clients, and market what you're selling, and then the actual service or product that you're selling. And you have an online business. Um, so, working in kind of the more traditional banking field of getting capital to Black and Brown owned businesses, it was tough. It was tough. And so, attending Exodus Summit, I'm like, this whole new world was opened up to me. And then I started seeing, oh my gosh, Black women can start online businesses and kind of not have to deal with any of this stuff, asking people for permission or it's like, no, we can just do it ourselves.
So we need every black woman or everyone who is listening, watching that loves a black woman to go to tell them to go to your Instagram to sign up for the webinar on Tuesday because this is freedom work. This
Mm.
is freedom work. Oh my gosh, Marissa. I remember talking to you and saying, "Girl, where have you been?" Because we have the conversation about how
Mm-hmm.
horrible working conditions are, but we
Yes.
very rarely have the conversation of how do we free ourselves from that and also continue to be self sufficient, continue to be because guess what? I've always known that most Black women are entrepreneurs
Mm-hmm.
whether we know it or not. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I grew up in a community where we had the candy lady. You know what I mean? You would go knock on the door, and you could get candy, or you could get something to drink. We had the lady that made the cakes. We had the cake lady. We
Mm-hmm.
had the lady that did hair out of her kitchen. Like we've always been self sufficient.
Mm-hmm.
We've always been able to make it work even if we weren't getting compensated financially.
Right.
We were providing a service that you
Mm-hmm.
knew you could not get anywhere else, whether it was the lady that was, and that was me. I was the lady that hemmed everybody's pants.
Mm-hmm.
I had a sewing machine at 14 and I was making money, and then I said I wanted a typewriter so I could type up stuff for people. Like we have always
Mm-hmm.
been self sufficient, sometimes because we have no other choice. But to be able to take that and use it for our freedom has
Mm-hmm.
not always been what we've done. And so,
Right.
again, I'm so grateful for the work that you and others are doing to free Black women, which I know that's why you call your business Free Black Women, because
Mm-hmm.
time. It
Yes.
is well past time. Like,
Mm-hmm.
listen, this is freedom work. This
Mm-hmm.
really, really is freedom work. So if you are a Black woman, if you love a Black woman, even if you don't like a Black woman, you can, get yourself some brownie points in heaven by passing on this information saying, listen, did you know all of that experience, all of that trauma that you went through,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't for nothing. You better
Yeah.
take all of that
Mm.
pain and turn it into some purpose,
Mm.
and Marissa's gonna
Mm.
show you how to do that.
Mm. Thank you.
Girl.
Yeah, and I'll just add too. Black women are already the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in the U.S. Having researched this in graduate school, um, but it's often that barrier of capital that
Yeah.
keeps so many of us like not able to go forward with our vision.
Mhm.
In the world of online business has kind of taken that and made it obsolete. You don't need capital to start a business anymore online. So yeah.
I I hope people let that seep into their consciousness. I don't need what I think I need to do what it was that I was created and born to do. Because that thing is not going to leave you. Like I literally just had a conversation with someone yesterday who is, and I said, your vision is limited because you think you only have one way to make money.
Mm.
And if you
Yeah.
think that way, guess what's also going to be limited? The money that you make. Because
Mm.
you are
That's
already
powerful.
thinking that
Hmm.
this is the only way that I'm going to be able to make money. And if you tell yourself in the entire universe that this is the only way, you are limiting yourself, you are limiting the universe, and you are limiting the resources that are available to you and want to provide the support that you really, really want, but you're too afraid to ask for.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
tell me, has it also been your experience that Black women are afraid to ask for things?
Yes. Absolutely. I know that I experienced that myself.
Let's
Not
talk
taking
about that,
advantage.
Marissa.
Oh, yeah, being scared to take advantage of things that are available to you,
Mm,
because you feel like someone has to give you permission for it. I know that's something I struggle with. You feel like it's too good to be true. You feel like your skills are not up to par. You lack confidence, self esteem, all issues that I struggle with myself. And really, these are just symptoms of living in an oppressive society, a white supremacist society.
right,
It's like, in recognizing that and realizing that it's not you, you've just naturally internalized these messages growing up in a society like this, and you can unlearn it. You can shed it if you don't want to, if you don't want it anymore.
right,
Yeah.
right. For me, it's if I take that step, someone's going to take it away. Like
Yeah.
I am
Mhm.
hell bent on this. This is too good to be true. The other shoe
Mhm.
is going to drop. I'm going to
Oh
lose
yeah.
everything. You
Yeah.
know, all
Mhm.
of that language, like you said, that has been ingrained in us, that is keeping us from the abundance that is available. And I remember Stephanie, and I were talking online, and she said, "There's enough for all of us." I said, "Let me tell you
Mhm.
something. Not only is there enough for all of us,
Mhm.
there is more than enough for all of us."
Yes.
And
Yeah.
we can all support each other in getting it. Like
Mhm. Yeah.
it's almost like we literally can walk hand in hand into the land of milk and honey. But
Mhm.
some of us are afraid.
Yeah.
Some of us want to bring people that we shouldn't be bringing. You
Mhm.
know,
Yeah.
some of us want to check who's going to be there first. We
Mhm.
place all of these conditions. Can you imagine placing conditions on the universe saying, I want all of that, but this is how I want it to come. I want it to be like this.
Mm.
No, no, that's not how it works. If
Right.
you want the abundance, you have to want it abundantly. You can't be, trying to
Mm.
take little increments at a time. Like I
Yes.
want it all. Now, it may take you a while to get there, but
Mhm.
that is why individuals like you, individuals like me, I'm certain individuals like Alicia are there to support you along the way to make sure that you keep on the journey of freedom, that you don't turn
Mhm.
around. And if anyone has watched that movie about Harriet Tubman, when she was like, listen, don't be questioning me. If I say we're
Mm.
going, we're going.
Mhm.
I've
Yeah.
already had the conversation with God. You don't have to ask me 20 million times, where are we going? How are we getting there? Already go. Just go.
Mhm. Yep.
I remember that scene when she was about to walk in the water and they're like, how deep is it? We don't know. If you don't get in this water, what you're saying is, I don't believe. I'm not trusting. I'm afraid.
Mhm. Yep.
Think something is going to get me. I'm telling you,
Mhm.
we going. Right. At
Mhm.
least we're going. And I don't want
Yes.
to hear no back talk. So Marissa is telling y'all on Tuesday, we are going forward. Yes,
Mhm.
come with your fears because we need to know what it is so that we can
Right.
address it, we can heal it, we can speak love and life into it, and we can tell
Mhm.
it it's a lie,
Right.
that it's
Right.
really a lie.
Mhm.
But if you don't have people who are willing to pull you and push you, it can feel like you're alone and isolated. So, what would you say to the woman who is listening who said, I've heard this all before, and I still feel like I'm alone in this? I still feel like I
Mhm.
can't trust people. I still feel like this sounds too good to be true. Y'all are not here with me when I got to, feed these kids and pay this phone bill and do all of these other things.
Mhm.
How do I know this is real? How do I know that I won't get hurt? What would you say to
Mm.
someone who may come on Tuesday and
Mm-hmm.
feel like on Wednesday, I'm too afraid.
Hmm. Ooh. Wow. I think it's normal to be afraid. It's normal to be
Mm,
afraid whenever you do something new. And I think if you just give it a chance, if you're around people who feel good to your spirit, I think it's
mhm,
really tapping into how people feel and not just what we want it to look like. Because a lot of us are trained like, okay, how does this look like on the outside? How does it feel to you? How do
mhm,
people around you feel? Do they feel supportive? Do you feel like you can share your full truth with them? And they're not
mhm,
going to judge you. They're not going to look at you any type of way, which is the environment that I'm creating, an open environment, a respectful environment to share your fears and not be judged by them. Also, bringing in things like mental health. Like, I'm not approaching business in like a scarcity rush type of way. I'm not doing that at all. It's very much leaning into your spiritual gifts, your natural gifts, taking it slowly, being your authentic self so that your people can find you and your
mm.
community can find you. So I would just say if you're open to it, give it a chance, see what you think. Um, and yeah, we love to have you there on Tuesday.
Yeah. So Marissa is telling y'all get in the water. Get in the water. Just put your feet in. Put your feet in.
Yes.
And I think your authenticity, you are willing to share, not just, oh, it's good, it's great, it's wonderful. It's these are the hardships that I had to deal with and that I still struggle with. I tell
Hmm.
people all the time, just because I'm a spiritual life coach doesn't mean I have it all figured out. As I said, I am grieving right now
Right.
and picking fights in places that I probably shouldn't be picking fights, but I know that that's
Hmm.
part of my process of figuring things out and my process of healing. I know what my healing looks like. I know
Yep.
what my pain and suffering look like too. So I'm grateful when I know I'm afraid of something because then I
Hmm.
can give it what it needs. If I ignore it, like we talked earlier, if I ignore what I'm afraid of, if I ignore the anger, if I ignore the tears, if I ignore those things, then I'm ignoring my own true GPS system. You know what I mean? Like those tears mean something. You better listen to them. That
Hmm.
anger means something and you better listen to it. Where did
Hmm.
it come from? Where did it start? And if it's not healed yet, trust that it will be healed at some point, but you have to keep acknowledging it. You have to keep looking at it. You cannot ignore it,
Mm. Yeah.
particularly
Yeah. Hmm.
Black women when it's a physical awareness. Those headaches,
Oh.
the shaky feeling,
Hmm.
the I can't sleep at night,
Oh, yes.
that pit in the stomach. I don't know why. I'm now on 4, 5, 6, 7 different medications trying to treat something that started here that I haven't dealt with.
Right.
And so we can no longer to afford to ignore the physical signs, the mental, emotional, and spiritual awarenesses. I like to call pain an awareness. Anywhere in my body, whether it's mental, emotional, physical, or spiritual, where I feel discomfort or pain, it's trying to tell me something.
Mm.
And I have to listen and say,
Hmm.
this is not the way that life is supposed to be. And I've got to, put myself back in balance. So, like Alicia is saying, please sign up, get in the water,
Thank you. Thank you.
get your freedom, and we're not turning back. We are not. I don't want to come back 10 years from now and we're still having the same conversation about how this is oppressive, that's oppressive, this is oppressive. Okay, we already know it's
Hmm.
oppressive. We can no longer be
Yeah.
shocked and like, oh my God, I can't believe they said that, did that. They still doing it. What are
Right.
we going to do about it? How are we going to free ourselves from
Hmm.
toxic systems, whether it's your job, your relationships, the community that you live in? Can you imagine paying to stay somewhere where you don't feel welcome, wanted, seen, or supported? And the signs
Hmm.
are obvious and all around you.
Hmm.
And they are more obvious than they ever have been
Right.
when people don't care about your well being. What are you going to do about it?
Right.
And so I urge you, so I'm going to sign up. I'm signing up for
Good.
that because that's good stuff. That is good stuff to be in the company of individuals who want their freedom.
Hmm. Yeah.
We're not turning back.
Hmm.
Marissa
I
Price,
needed to hear that message.
yeah, we'll have another conversation
Hmm.
because being a wellness advocate, and I'm highlighting the advocate part. It's the willingness to say, to do, and to create things that make other people uncomfortable, but for the greater good.
Hmm.
So I would love to have a conversation about you about wellness advocacy, um,
Hmm.
because sometimes it's not pretty.
Hmm.
We are pushing against systems
Hmm.
that we all have been living under for so long.
Right.
Sometimes it does feel like you got to pull people along, and sometimes it can be painful to you as the
Hmm.
person. Like, I'm advocating for your freedom, and you over here kicking me in the back. It's like, So I would
Yeah.
love to have a conversation with you about that. I thank
Yeah.
you for being willing to have this conversation again. Anyone who is willing to talk about their past trauma so that other people do not experience it is a hero in my book. You are courageous. The work that you are doing is so vital to our community. So I thank you, thank you, thank you. And you know what? Because you could have went on down there to Mexico and just faded into the distance like that. Oh, but you didn't. You decided to
Hmm.
stay where you are necessary and needed. Um, and so we thank you. We thank you
Thank
for
you.
your gifts. We thank you for your vision. Again, that is Marissa's information on Instagram, YouTube, and on LinkedIn. Alicia says, "Stand ovation." Thank you, my dear, my love. We thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned. We don't know what's going to happen with Work It Wellness Wednesday as Yolanda starts to transform her own business, but I can tell you this thing, it's going to be loving. Whatever it is going to be loving. Thank you, my dear. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Continue to comment on YouTube. I will respond. And if you have something specifically for Marissa, I will make sure that she gets it. Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank
Marissa.
you, Amanda.
Y'all have a great rest of your Wednesday.